Hey everybody, Reed Price here. I play the role of Rob Shandon on Sullivan's Crossing, and you're listening to Corman Productions' Deep Dive TV Podcast with Dave and Stacie.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions, my co-host Stacie, here to talk about Sullivan's Crossing, Season 2, Episode 2, titled A Storm is Brewing. And we're recording this literally from the road as we are on our way to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we're in the car, not driving, because I think I'd get very sick trying to read my notes while we're driving. But we're stopped at a rest stop. And so if you hear a lot of weird background noise or anything odd or some interesting cuts, it's because we are recording this throughout the day as we wait for my husband to get out of the bathroom.
And that was the strategy to record this podcast and get it uploaded today. The episode's description reads as follows. Maggie searches for clues regarding the cause of Sully's condition as she struggles to make a decision about her own future. The episode is directed by Chris Grismer. Once again, this is his final stint, at least I think, on this season. And the episode was written by Nora Roth. Shoutouts this week. We got Shelley Thompson. She was nominated her book.
I have that the episode was written by Layla Besson.
Oh, you're probably right on that one.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it again. The episode is directed by Chris Grismer. This is his final effort of the season, I believe. Chris Grismer, of course, being the one who directed Quantum Leap and was my favorite director on that show. And the episode was written by Layla Besson. And this week I got shout-outs for Shelley Thompson, who was nominated her book, Roar, for the Coast's Best of Halifax book.
Yay!
So congratulations to Shelley Thompson for that. Of course, Shelley Thompson was in this series last season. And Skylar Anderson, who was a regular contributor last year, he says, it's glad to be back with you guys. I understand it's needed for drama, but they made Lola weirdly unlikable. I wish they had softened her character a bit, just so there is actually a debate about who was in the right. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree. As much as I really want to like her time and time again, she is
let me tell you,
likable.
Yeah, let me tell you, this episode does not help one bit, and she's barely in it. But, yep, that's thank you. Good to see you again, Skylar Anderson. And then we got Sharon Greenman, who commented on one of the Facebook groups, said that we are actually worth checking out, and to get our opinion. She agrees with me a lot, particularly about her opinion on Andrew. Andrew did not piss me off in this episode. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because he was not in it.
He was, however, in the credits.
That's true.
Which is weird. He was in the credits, but he did not appear in the episode.
That is weird. And she said that you usually go through the supporting cast and what they've done and who's in this episode and that. You know what's really funny about that? When we first started, I was exclusively the one that went through the actors. And it's gradually morphed to us both taking on that responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's gradually morphed even further than that, whereas sometimes I just kind of take a back seat in that regard. Mainly because for timing reasons, especially recently when we're doing like 5 podcasts. But yeah, we've gradually evolved what we've done over time. And mainly that's because a lot of these people are people that we end up knowing.
Right.
So you end up taking particular note of the little guy, as you said in the past. And we particularly sympathize with the little guy because we are the little guy. All right. So, anyway, your thoughts on this week's episode?
I enjoyed it. It fixed the problem of last week. Last week they went out of their way to make sure we talked to every single character we know. And they didn't do that this week. We didn't see everybody. We didn't see Connie's family at all. We spent a little bit more time with Rob and Sydney. Even though it wasn't a ton of screen time, they're at least doing something with their characters instead of just existing. I was sad that we already had a death.
Yes.
Like, that was crazy. I was expecting him to die.
I kind of saw it coming.
But I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty shocking. Yeah, I think this is a decent episode. I particularly like the ending of this episode. I thought that was kind of cute, the ending.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't expecting things to get so, get so out of hand so quickly.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, what's going on now? What are we doing? Why? Wait, what? You're going to get in trouble. They're going to get in so much trouble.
Yep, I believe so. But it seems like perhaps things are looking better for Sully than we might think.
Yes, I think we got some nice foreshadowing that Sully is actually going to be okay.
All right, so do you have anything else to say, or do you just want to dive right in?
We might as well jump into the episode.
All right, so we open with the doctor telling her that the father, Sully, is going to be fine, but it enhances her fear that she got the diagnosis of Alzheimer's correct.
Yeah, and she pushes again for getting extra testing done. And Lola's like, what are you talking about? And so Maggie excuses the doctor so she can tell Lola what she hasn't told her yet. And of course, Lola gets all pissy about this and is like, why are you keeping me out of the loop?
Like, look, I just found out about this recently. Like, I'm not cutting you out, even though she's not technically family.
Right. That's why, the doctor didn't tell her.
Right, yeah. So, she doesn't take this news very well, accuses Maggie of shutting her out, and she wants to inform Edna and Frank, but Maggie thinks that's premature, just in case the doctor has this wrong. But of course, what does Lola end up doing? She ends up going and blabbing it to everybody,
right,
regardless of what Maggie thinks, or maybe Sully even wants at this point. So she continues her streak of being just an absolutely awful person. And I find the actress in this... this is not the first time I've said this, but Lola's line delivery, that would be... what was her name again?
Amelia Williamson.
Amelia Williamson. Her line delivery in this scene was really kind of weird. It's kind of hard to read. I don't know what to actually think of Lola, because these line reads kind of read as her being fake, and I'm not sure that's exactly how I'm supposed to take the character. You think that's an accurate way to view the character, that she's being really fake?
I feel like she thinks she's a great person, and she thinks she's always the victim.
Right.
And I don't think she knows how terrible she is.
No.
I definitely don't think she's doing it intentionally.
So she's kind of like Andrew in the sense that he seems to think that he's a good guy, even though he really is not.
Right.
Gotcha.
Again, they need to get together, those two.
Yeah.
It'll fix everything.
What would be the ship name for that? Yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, so Sully doesn't know yet about his possible diagnosis, and he comes in wheeled in a chair, and Maggie berates him a little bit for his behavior that led to the collapse, because apparently he was being belligerent and getting into it with the hospital staff before he collapsed. Lola defends him and acts really strange, and he asks which of them is bringing him home. And Lola, of course, just kind of nopes out of there.
That's exactly what my notes say. I said Lola nopes out of the conversation saying she has to go.
And, yeah, that's great for her. She wants to be, considered one of the daughters, but she's just quick to bail when things get tough in
right.
the scene. And credits. When we come back, Maggie has to break him the possible bad news about why he has to stay longer in the hospital. And apparently this is something that Sully's dad had suffered from. Maggie wasn't aware of that, but Maggie tells him that we don't know that the doctor is even right, and that everything is going to be okay. At the Shandon's diner, in comes Rob's love interest Jane, and we see Cal in the background as this is going on.
Yeah, and Jane is played by Cindy Sampson. Cindy was in 3 episodes of The Departure. She was in 2 episodes of The Bold Type, 11 episodes of Supernatural, and 2 episodes of Being Human. Lots of things I've watched.
So apparently Jane has been here multiple times this week getting lobster rolls. And there's definitely a lot of flirtiness going on here.
From her to him specifically.
Right.
Not the other way around.
He's a little bit more hesitant, but I don't think he's not interested. But yeah, anyway. So she ends up leaving. Cal, after she leaves, suggests she might be more interested in him than his lobster rolls. But Rob thinks he's not sure if Finn is ready for him to start dating. And Cal suggests that it might be the other way around. And I think that's more likely the case. Though, I'm not really sure how Finn would actually feel about Rob dating.
Yeah, I mean, Finn acts weird about a lot of things. So
right.
I do think there's some truth to that he'd be weird about it.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, I almost said Tom. Definitely Rob is scared to broach the subject. And, he's definitely using Finn as an excuse.
Right, yeah. Frank and Edna have gotten the news about Sully's possible Alzheimer's disease, and Frank thinks that Sully being in the hospital isn't good for him. Now, I was questioning at this point, how exactly do these two know about this diagnosis? We don't yet know that Lola is the one that's been telling everybody, but that's what it turns out to be the case, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, once again, she continues to be just a horrible human being, though it seems like she thinks or acts like she actually is a good person when she's in fact not.
She has good intentions.
Yeah.
As always.
Mm-hmm. So Sydney comes in to do the books, and apparently she heard the bad news about his diagnosis. And Frank wants to do a smudge ceremony to clean out the bad energy, but Edna doesn't think that the hospital staff will let him do it. And who do you think is going to be right on that one? It's a big mystery for that one. Maggie calls Dr. Callahan, needing more time before she can start the new job, and he can only give her 1 more week to hold the position.
Yeah, and I feel like this has been going on for a long time.
Right.
I think it is pretty generous that they're holding this spot for her.
And this is the second time we're seeing Dr. Callahan?
We saw him twice in season 1.
Yep.
He's played by Rice Bevan John, and this is his first appearance in season 2.
So, at Shannon's, Cal is eating chicken pot pie, which was Rob's wife's recipe. And Cal asks him if he ever thought about leaving, and Rob can't quite bring himself to sell the diner, which he owned with his wife originally.
Yeah, it was a very important place to her. It was her dream that they open this diner.
And he feels like it's a great place for Finn to grow up in. And I agree. I would love to have grown up in this area.
Yeah, Timberlake seems like a nice little town.
Yeah. And he asks about Cal, what his plans are, if he's planning on sticking around. And Cal isn't so sure about sticking around now. He doesn't say why, but it's clear that
we
Maggie...
know why.
Yeah, Maggie is broken
Yeah,
his
he's
heart.
like, I was thinking about it, but now I'm not so sure. And on the radio during this scene, we hear an announcer, played by Blair Langell. He was in an episode of The Sinner season 4 as a character named Roy. I don't remember who Roy was, but he was there, which means we have talked about this actor before.
Yep.
He's in various Trailer Park Boys projects, and he was in 2 episodes of Chapelwaite. And the announcer is telling us that there's a big storm coming. It's coming up north from the Carolinas, and it's going to hit Nova Scotia. And they're making it sound like it's going to be a really, really bad storm. So I think this is definitely foreshadowing for the next episode. I think the storm's going to hit. We already knew going into this, just from the press materials, that there's going to be a big storm as a main plot point for this season. So I think that's where we're going to get to see our emergency rescue services, our little side story of, Connie's team doing their thing. With their 2 employees and their 8 trucks that the 2 employees are running,
Right, yeah. They're going to be busy beavers for sure. So yeah, just in time for hurricane season for us.
Right,
and all the hurricanes that are going on here.
And yeah, this episode of Storm is Brewing actually aired here in the U.S. the same day that Milton hit Florida.
Right.
So that was pretty interesting timing.
Yeah.
That they're talking about.
Yeah, pretty
storms
coincidental.
Coming while literally we were following that at the same time that this was airing.
So Frank is at the hospital, and this is where we learn that Lowell is in fact the culprit for the one telling everybody about Sully. And he tries to light some sweetgrass, and wouldn't you know it, Edna is right. In fact, Sully also is basically like, do you think this is a good idea? And I don't think it's a good idea either.
It's not a good idea. Yeah, even Sully knew, you can't just go lighting that in a hospital.
And yeah, once you know it, the nurse comes by and puts a stop to that. I think she ends up taking his lighter, but...
She took his lighter.
Yep.
And she wanted to take the whole kit from him, but he wouldn't give it up. So she took the lighter, and she's like, you can pick this up on your way out of the building. And this is the same nurse we met in the first episode, played by Anne Marie Kerr.
And Sully ends up telling Frank that he needs to get him out of there. And in comes Edna. He gives Sully a hug, as well as I told you so to Frank. Basically, how'd that whole thing work out for you? Not very well, as it turns out. She brings him apple pie and tells him that both him and her love Sully. And I think I said that very awkwardly. Both her and Frank love Sully, like family.
Yes. And Frank admits also to her that he was wrong about the smudging. See, he's a good husband. He knows how to admit when he's wrong.
So is that like a shot at your husband?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
At husbands in general.
Yes, I got you. So Sydney is at the shop with Maggie when the pregnant lady comes in complaining of an itch. And basically, Maggie ends up diagnosing it, saying that when you're pregnant, everything goes crazy, and you end up allergic to things that you wouldn't have been before because your immune system.
She's allergic to all the mosquito bites that she's been getting, and this is the camper Ellis.
Yes.
And so they start talking about her pregnancy, and Ellis basically says she isn't sure if she wants to go back to work after the baby's born because all of her friends have kind of told her that that's a bad idea, that they all had such a hard time balancing being a new mom and a work life.
And that's very much rubbing salt in the wounds for Maggie, basically because that's kind of something she's grappling with right now.
Right, this is exactly what her concern is with her pregnancy, that, this woman doesn't know Maggie's pregnant. But Sydney's right there, and Sydney knows, and Sydney's picking up on how this is affecting Maggie.
And of course, there's also the Sully stuff, like the fact that her father's been diagnosed potentially with Alzheimer's, and she might have to take care of him.
Right. She has a lot on her plate, and she's just like, how am I going to do this?
Right.
And have a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then Sydney sells Ellis some vitamin B1, which is going to be an important plot point later. Because everybody here swears that it wards off the mosquitoes, and Maggie's like, well, that's not really a science, but it can't hurt. Give it a try. And she says it's actually a good prenatal vitamin anyways, to take this vitamin B1.
And Ellis also registers a noise complaint with Maggie about one of the campers and their dog. And Maggie agrees to help with that. I don't think that's going to go very well because, Maggie doesn't exactly have the most people skills in the world.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Is like, who's running this campground right now?
Right.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Frank and Edna, who officially work here. They're off taking care of Sully right now.
Right.
Sydney's working the register in the outpost. Like, she's here just to do the books. As a favor, I think. I don't even think they've employed her for that. But suddenly now she's, like, selling stuff to people and running the store. And Maggie's just here, like she just came back, and now she's trying to leave again. And she's like, yeah, I'll go run the campground and talk to the campers. Like,
right.
I hope nobody here actually needs anything, because there is no staff. There's nobody taking care of this campground.
Right. Jackson's not even around.
he's off, touring colleges or whatever. So, like, there's 0 people.
Right.
Like, this whole place could burn down, and there's nobody here to, like, do anything.
Well, and also there's the emergency staff has like 1 vehicle, so.
And Cal's not working here anymore.
Right.
He came back to his cabin to stay as a camper, but he's not actually working here at the moment.
Right.
He's doing all these odd jobs around town.
And so Rob is going to pick up some supplies back at Shandon's, and Finn won't go with him, so he ends up recruiting Clover to babysit, and I guess this is not the first time this has happened.
Yeah, she's like, you want me to watch your kid again?
Right. But at the same time, she's just sitting there on her phone doing nothing else. Like,
yeah, she's sitting at a table on her phone. I don't know what her job capacity is, but she's not doing it. She's not doing anything. Now, I know it's not to babysit, but yeah, she's not helping at all at the diner either.
Right, no.
She's just kind of around.
Yeah, what was the point of hiring her again?
Assistant manager.
Right, but what was the point if she's not going to actually assistant manager?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is what a lot of managers do, is a whole lot of nothing.
But when I was an assistant manager, I did more stuff, that's for sure. So Maggie tries to deal with a barking dog and the owner, who apparently is a war vet.
Yeah, and this is Pete. He's played by Joel Thomas Haynes. He's in 15 episodes of a show called Little Dog, and he was in 4 episodes of Orphan Black,
which is a show that I am familiar with. And he's very belligerent. He starts yelling at the crowd that's gathering around to, I don't know, why are they even there? Well, why is this even necessary?
Why is what necessary?
All these people staring at him because of the dog?
Well, because he's yelling and screaming.
But they were there before he even started yelling and screaming.
They're at the sites next to him. They're at a campground, so there's a lot of people around.
Really? There's that many campers around that area?
Yeah.
It's a crowded campground.
I mean, the last time I was at a campground like this where we stayed in a cabin, the cabins are like 3 feet apart from each other. And then right across the dirt road, there's campers exactly like this, yeah.
So you went glamping?
Well, yeah, we went and stayed in a cabin in Gettysburg a couple years ago.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's the same thing where you'll have cabins and you'll have campers and you'll have people in tents. And the sites are all very close to each other. It's like right next door.
Okay.
And that's the situation here is because he's so close to other people that his dog is bothering people because his dog's outside and just barking all the time. And so she asked him, can you bring your dog inside the camper? Which I don't think that's fair to ask him to do. Like, dogs are allowed here, so your dog can be here. But she does have one valid point, is your dog should be on a leash. Apparently his dog's just loose.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Yes.
You should have the dog at least on a leash. But I don't see that you could tell this camper that he has to keep his dog inside. That's weird.
So he goes crazy, and Cal has to basically intervene to calm things down. And we get a little hint at Cal's past from the scene.
Yeah, Cal talks to him about being a vet and says his dad and his brother served also. And he talks to him about being safe because Pete says he doesn't feel safe and the dog is here for his safety. And Cal tells him he's going to come back later and he's going to help Pete find a more secluded spot to camp where he's going to be further away from people so that he'll feel more safe. And the underlying thing here is, well, now your dog will be further away from people, so people aren't going to complain about your dog barking if you're a little bit further away.
Right.
So he's kind of fixing both problems here.
So Maggie ends up saying, hey, good job on dealing with that situation. Maggie certainly wasn't going to be able to fix that.
Yeah, no, she was making things worse by the second.
And she reveals to Cal that's about Sully's possible medical situation, which I'm surprised he doesn't already know. I'm surprised Lola didn't run to him instantly.
He may know, and he's pretending like he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he didn't know that she was planning on staying, but
yeah,
I can see him, pretending that this is the first time he's hearing about Sully.
So, yeah, she thinks she's not going to have a job because she's going to have to stick around and do this. But Cal says Sully will have friends here to help him through this. Indicating that perhaps she can still go to Boston if she wants to.
Yeah, but you know what? He might have friends, but we already know this place is understaffed and it's in trouble.
Well, yes.
Every single business, Chandon's Diner, Sullivan's Crossing, the Search and Rescue, they're all grossly understaffed.
Yes, indeed.
And apparently every person works at all of them.
Basically.
In some capacity.
Right? So, speaking of people working in the other places as well, Rob drops the supplies off at the shop, and Sydney is confused why Ben is back at the restaurant when the point of hiring Clover in the first place was to give them more time. And yeah, Sydney has a point here. Once again, what was the point of hiring Clover if, basically you alienated your sister, and she's not doing any work, so now you have double the work.
Right. So Sydney quit.
Yep.
She was basically his assistant manager.
Yeah.
Except she actually did stuff.
Right.
Both for, she would help with Finn and she'd help with the restaurant. And she was helpful.
Yeah.
Clover's not helpful. So the restaurant lost Sydney and gained Clover.
Yes.
Which is a net loss in productivity.
A lot of net loss, for sure.
And, there's no way that that's going to help alleviate Rob to have more time for his son.
Yes.
You need to actually hire multiple people who actually do things.
Right. Maybe
if you want to alleviate your own time.
Maybe a waitress or two,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the place is hopping, so I'm sure you have the money to do this.
Now, I will point out that in this season, I have seen, cooks through the window. And
okay, gotcha.
In the first season, we never saw a single other soul. And I remember when we talked to Reed Price about this, he was like, oh, yeah, there's other people working in the kitchen. In season 2, I can see them. Did not see them in season 1.
Maybe it's because they listened to our podcast and they said, okay, well, since Dave and Stacie don't know who works here, we're gonna show some people working here.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So Edna comes back and Rob asks for payment on his shipments because he's a little cash strapped. And this is more hints for Edna of Sully's struggles.
Yeah, she said she was surprised that Sully didn't take care of that weeks ago. She thought that because at some point in season 1, said Sully had asked, like, hey, is it okay if we just put this on credit and we'll square up later? Because, Sully doesn't have any money. The campground is broke. And nobody seems to really understand that. Like, Sydney's working on the books, but she's apparently not very good at this.
Right.
And maybe you shouldn't hire a model to do your bookkeeping.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that exactly.
Because there's nobody else to do anything.
Right, yeah.
So she's like, sure, I can do math. But, I mean, she hasn't figured it out yet, so I can't imagine she's doing too great of a job.
No.
Because it should be pretty obvious that there's a mountain of bills that haven't been paid.
So, at the hospital, Sully gets his roommate Duncan back after his surgery. And he's feeling much, much better now, to the point where he's going to go and ask, I forgot where the place he was.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons. He's going to ask out a girl from Tim Hortons.
Yes, a waitress that works there. He really likes her, and he's like, that's the first place I'm going to go when I get out of here, is I'm going to finally ask her out. He says he hasn't felt this good in years.
I'm kind of curious how old she is, but we're never going to find out.
We're never going to find out, no.
So, Finn won't come out of the bathroom at Shandon's for Clover. She ends up calling Rob. Nothing. And what is Rob doing at this point?
He's doing deliveries.
Okay. So she ends up calling Sydney, and she ends up heading over. Meanwhile, Frank is convinced the doctors aren't right about Sully's diagnosis. Edna asks if he's been drinking again, and points out that Sully, other than Frank, is her only family. And yeah, I'm really surprised at this point that they don't know that Sully went back to drinking.
Right.
Wouldn't it be pretty obvious?
I mean, he was hiding it. He was,
not very well.
He got rid of the bottle.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it feels like everybody doesn't know things that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing actually is in the very next scene, Maggie's gonna go pull out that photo album.
Yes.
Should that have been already out and on the floor, because Sully was looking at it when he collapsed?
It should have been.
So somebody cleaned up that room and put all this stuff away between the time that he went to the hospital and the time Maggie got back to the outpost.
Perhaps it was Lola.
Maybe. She's the keeper of secrets.
Yeah. So Maggie digs through Sully's things and finds newspaper clippings of her, and she realized that he did in fact care.
And also, one of the articles was, I found this interesting. It was an article saying Bob Hollis and Maggie Sullivan are opening their clinic, and there's a picture of Maggie on it. There's no picture of Bob. And it seems really funny that there would be a picture of her and not a picture of him in this news article.
Maybe he cut that part out.
It didn't look like it.
No.
Also, I was able to read some of the text, and it was an article about Bob Hollis and Maggie Sullivan, but after 2 paragraphs, the text just repeated itself over and over again.
Well, that is not a very well-written article. Someone should check that out.
It wasn't a very well-written article, no.
And then she finds a medallion that makes her realize that he is in fact an alcoholic.
Yes, one of his sobriety chips, and she never knew. She never in her life knew that her dad was an alcoholic.
So Maggie calls her mother and asks about Sully's dad's Alzheimer's that we learned earlier, and about Sully's drinking. Her mom says she didn't think it was her place to say anything about either one of those situations. And while I'm not exactly the biggest Maggie's mom fan, that would be Phoebe, right? Phoebe. But still,
Phoebe is not a name.
Phoebe is not her name?
Phoebe is not a name, no.
Well, maybe I'll name my next kid that, and then then it will actually be a name. But yeah, so I don't generally like to defend her because she's a horrible person like everybody in Boston is. I mean, okay.
All of the Boston characters in Sullivan's Crossing.
Yeah, I'm not specifically saying that people in Boston are terrible.
Maggie's people are terrible.
Yes, yeah, they're perfectly fine branch of people, just not these 3.
Yeah, Phoebe and Andrew and Walter are pretty horrible people in Maggie's life.
But I don't really necessarily have a problem with her mother not telling her about Sully's alcoholism.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not a topic you share with your, 10-year-old.
Right, no.
As to this is why we're leaving, is because your dad's a drunk and he's dangerous to be around. Yeah, I get that never came up, right? Because Sully wasn't in their lives, and she never spent time with her dad. But it probably should have came up during this summer that Maggie was hanging out here.
Right.
He was going to meetings with Frank, and Maggie's the one who just failed at communicating with her dad.
Right.
Now that she's an adult,
Right. Yeah,
that's not her mom's fault.
No.
This is, between her and Sully, that they never communicated about these things.
So Rob ends up picking up Finn from Sydney's, and she ends up telling Finn that she isn't living there anymore because she's trying to figure things out in her life, and living with Rob and Finn made that more difficult. I'm not totally sure why or how, and I don't think Finn really understands it either.
Yeah. She just, she needs some space.
Right.
But I don't think what she's doing instead is any better for her.
Right.
She's in a weird situation, this girl.
Yes, yeah. I continue to question her decision-making abilities.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, she suggests to Rob that to improve their relationship, maybe Rob should open up to Finn a little bit more, and maybe that'll help improve that relationship. Cal, back in his cabin, has flashbacks to what I assume is him and his sister dealing with his parents. It seems like he might have had some alcoholism in his family as well.
Right, so the parents are in the bus. Remember, they live on a traveling bus, this family. Mm-hmm. And the parents are arguing. The mom wants to settle down somewhere. So he's thinking about the conversation he had with that camper Pete. Mom wants to settle down somewhere. Dad doesn't feel safe, and it's why they keep traveling. And young Cal tells his sister outside of the bus, one day we're going to have a real home. I'm going to take care of you. He's trying to comfort her while the parents are yelling and screaming and arguing. And the parents, we only hear voices. We don't see them on screen. But the dad, Jed Jones, is played by David Rossetti. He was in 2 episodes of King and Pawn, 3 episodes of Chapaway, and he is in the movie Bone Cage with all of our Nova Scotian friends.
Yes, it seems like...
We really need to find that movie.
Yeah, we do. It seems like every Nova Scotian actor that ever existed is in that movie.
Yeah, it must be a really huge cast.
Yeah.
The mom, Marissa Jones, is played by Brittany Kanzi. She's in a movie called Creepy Crawling, and she has some shorts on her filmography. The sister, young Sedona Jones, she's played by Charlie Story, who is in the movie Thanksgiving, and 2 episodes of Eli Roth Presents. And then we have young Cal himself, is played by Theo something. This is that young actor's first credit.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations for that. Sydney looks through pics of her modeling days, and Raph comes home. He admits to hoping she would change her mind about just being friends. They almost kiss, but Sydney doesn't think it's a good idea, and he claims to understand, though I don't think he actually does.
He doesn't. I mean, I don't blame him. She moved in with him.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. They said they're just friends, but before she moved in, they were sleeping together.
Yes.
As friends.
Yes.
Like they weren't in a relationship, but now that she's living there, they're being completely platonic, and it's weird. And they clearly are interested in each other.
Yes.
They're having all these weird, like, sexual tension moments. And he's like, I liked it when things were complicated between us. And she's like, I liked that too. And it feels like this moment where they're going to be like, okay, let's figure this out. But instead she's like, but nah.
Yeah, I would like some more backstory as to exactly what happened to Sydney to make her like this.
Yeah, we keep getting all these hints about, she made some poor choices in New York, and something with her manager happened, and that didn't go well. But yeah, she's being weird. She's like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Okay,
right.
But start figuring it out.
Right.
Because you're just putting all the people in your life in these weird circumstances.
Right, yeah.
And does he even have a second bedroom? Like, where is she sleeping?
In the bathroom, maybe? Maybe that's why he can never get in there?
Yeah, it's weird. He's also very impressed that she baked cookies. Because she made cookies when Finn was there. And he's like, wow, those are really good. Like, I didn't know you knew how to bake.
I could almost smell those cookies. I kind of actually want one. All right. So, Duncan ends up talking about feeling better at the hospital and asking the girl out at Tim Hortons.
And he says he's really looking forward to getting out of here. He has a new lease on life.
And then he dies.
He flatlines. Sully calls for help. 2 nurses start working on him. We're introduced to nurse number 2 here, played by Emma Cornell, according to the episode credits, but I could not find her on IMDb.
Yeah, so
the nurses are working on her, and then in comes Dr. Rabney, who says, stop! Duncan has a DNR, do not resuscitate, meaning they're not allowed to intervene. They're not allowed to save his life.
Right, yes.
And Sully tries talking her out of it, saying, he changed his mind. He wants to live, and he did. Like, we heard that.
Right.
And there was this moment earlier when where Sully was talking about paperwork, where Duncan went, oh, yeah, paperwork. And I think maybe in that moment he was thinking, I should talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, I should talk to someone about that DNR. Too late.
Exactly. Like, and it didn't come up, but I feel like that was what was going through Duncan's head when he heard the word paperwork. Because he went, yeah, paperwork. Like, oh, I did something about that, didn't I? When I, wanted to die yesterday.
So, yeah, Sully is so upset, he needs to be restrained.
He hits the doctor, gets restrained. Duncan dies. Here's my question. All of the staff, other than Rabney, came in and immediately started trying to save him, as you do in hospitals. How did the staff not know about the DNR?
That is also my question.
That should have been like a colored sticker right on the end of his bed.
And what exactly would have happened if Rabney hadn't been in the room?
Right, they probably would have saved him.
And then, oops, he has a DNR, and we weren't supposed to.
He'd have been happy about it, because we do know he wanted to live at this point. And he would have said, thank you, cancel the DNR. But if that hadn't been the case, if you saved someone's life who didn't want to be saved, that's a big lawsuit.
Yeah.
I think the whole concept of the DNR is really weird. Like, medical staff letting somebody die, it's a weird thing. Like, he wasn't here, like, in a coma or something. He had a broken hip.
Fair. I think DNRs are mainly a thing when you have, like, a terminal illness.
Right, terminal patients.
Yeah.
I get. You don't want to continue treatment. You're going to let this disease take over and finish your life. But he didn't have any of that. There was nothing life-threatening going on here. He just had this on file already.
So under what circumstances can you file a DNR? At any point?
Apparently at any point. You can go right now and file one, I guess.
So I could say, do not resuscitate me, even though there's nothing wrong with me, and if
I think that's what they're saying. I don't know, but I feel like that's what this show's saying.
Interesting. I'm going to look into that, because I'm not really sure.
And again, Canada could be different.
Yeah, of course.
We talked about, in season 1, we talked about, like, the laws in different places about euthanasia. That came up, with Cal's wife.
Right.
And the laws there are different in different countries and different states. And we were talking about, where was she when that happened?
Right.
So there's definitely, different. It's a great. Anything in this is, gray things, and it's just based on different laws in different places. But the fact that he was here with a broken hip, and now we're just going to let him die, it's really weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird to me. And the hospital staff should have known if there was a DNR.
They should have.
And I feel like this hospital just continues to show incompetence. And it's not just that they're short-staffed. Like, they are completely incompetent. And I could totally see the way that we save Sullivan's Crossing is because we find some reason to sue this hospital.
There's plenty of reasons, I think, already.
But more likely, I think what's going to happen is Maggie's going to come work for them, and she's going to save the whole hospital, because she's going to just single-handedly run the place, like every other place has a single-handed person running it.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
She's going to run the hospital and the search and rescue and run Sullivan's Crossing, and she'll probably waitress at the diner, too.
And she's also going to be a hostage negotiator for the police, as she was last season.
Yeah, and she failed. She didn't do great at that. She got yelled at for it. But yeah, that's the thing, is every person just needs to do every job. As they do in Nova Scotia in real life. Every Nova Scotian we've talked to has 10 hats they wear. So, I guess this is true to life.
Yeah, like, Shelley Thompson is also a dentist. Okay, I'm making that up, but...
she mentioned it, though.
Yeah, she did. So, Maggie in the morning is at Sully's. She's looking over her scans and his hospital info. Lola shows up to Cal's, having found out info at Roy's about what happened to her getting run over.
She found all of the case files, and and this was weird to me, too. She's like, you're the only person I can think of. Can you help me? Because he's a lawyer. And he's like...
I thought we already did this. But
he's like, yeah, I'll help you. I'm going to read them, and we're going to find the person that did this to you. It seems weird that we're just, like, suddenly, like, dragging up this case that happened to her when she was a kid. And they're talking about it like it's current and relevant.
Right. Once again, I think they're handling this plot line a little clumsily.
Yeah.
They brought it up awkwardly last week and made Lola look sillier than she already does.
Right. When she was like, You've never been to rehab. I know what it's like. And how old is she supposed to be again? How long ago did this accident happen? At least 10 years, right?
Right, yeah.
They're acting like it happened last year.
Right.
And there's an active investigation going on.
Right. So yeah, Cal offers to help look into it. He's a lawyer. He's not a police investigator.
He's a lawyer. But you know what this is going to mean is he's going to be the one to put the pieces together and discover that it was Sully.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
And then what's going to happen?
It's going to ruin his reputation.
I mean, Lola's not going to want to persecute Sully.
Right.
Is it going to hurt their relationship?
I would assume so. Oh, by the way, I ran you over when you were a kid, and I
fled the scene.
Yeah.
And then lied to you about it your whole life.
That tends to put a damper on people's relationships for sure. So, Sydney and Edna end up talking. Sydney isn't sure where she fits in. Edna tells her not to wait as far as her relationship with Raph.
Actually, no. I got the opposite out of that.
No?
Because Edna was talking about how she wanted more from her life. She wanted to travel the world. And didn't.
Gotcha, because of Frank.
So what I got out of it is when she said, don't wait. She was meaning don't wait to go out and explore the world.
Oh,
Don't tie yourself down is what I got out of it.
Right, I guess you're right. That does make actually more sense.
It wasn't don't wait to have a relationship. It was don't wait to go and explore your life and do you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get tied down.
Gotcha. So she calls some dude named Harvey. Sydney.
Sydney calls Harvey and asks if there's a spot for her on the modeling roster. And is this the manager that she slept with? Is this the guy that caused all her problems, or is this somebody else?
I don't know.
Like, we didn't get clarification on that, but the way she's like, you got room for me? He's somebody important, and wouldn't it have been the manager that you deal with that stuff with?
Yeah.
So if she's going back to the same manager that caused her to leave and caused all the problems in her life, that's a bad idea.
It does sound
Find
like
a new manager?
I would think so.
So I hope that's not who Harvey is, but I got a feeling that's who she's talking to.
So at Sully's, Cal ends up knocking on the door, and Cal ends up telling Maggie that he has decided to stay, that she doesn't have to worry about Sully because he will be there. And she's like, you don't need to do that for me. I can't ask you to do that.
Right. Basically, he's saying, I decided to stay so that you can go take the job.
Right. And he ends up saying that, no, that's not the case, that he thinks that this is the life for him. And she says that it'll be a big change for him. Is it really? Because he's been here a while, hasn't he?
He's been here a while. She's saying it'll be a big change from New York.
But he's already been here.
He's been here. He was here longer than she's been here.
Right. So Cal says sometimes that's exactly what you need. Frank ends up finding Sully at the hospital drugged.
He's crying. He's out of it. He begs Frank to get him out of here.
So he ends up going and confronting that nurse that we saw, the not very nice nurse at all.
Yeah, the terrible nurse.
And he ends up like, what did you do, my friend? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she does know what he's talking about.
He says, I'm release him right now. I'm taking him home.
Right.
And she says, I can't do that. She tells him Sully's been sedated and he's being transferred to a secure ward.
Yeah, to be evaluated after the incident that happened last night.
And here's my question here. Why hasn't Maggie been notified about any of these events?
Right.
She clearly, like, we've been watching her. She doesn't know about what happened last night. She doesn't know we had an altercation with the doctor. She doesn't know he's being transferred to a secure ward. She should have gotten a phone call last night about this.
Yes, she should have been. This hospital is terrible, man. So, Cal sees Sully's scans and learns that Sully was an alcoholic, which should hit home with him, given the fact that his dad
and I'm really surprised Cal didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I kind of get that Maggie doesn't know, because, again, they have a terrible relationship. But Cal was close with Sully. He was there during all of this. It feels really weird that Cal didn't know.
Right, yeah.
And the only people who know, I guess, are Frank and Edna. And I get that, they're not, like, blabbing that to everybody. But at the same time, like, these people are all really close. You're working together.
I don't think it's realistic to hide that.
Remember, Sully, like, didn't go to that party that everybody went to?
Right,
where Cal and Andrew got into it.
And Cal ends up bringing up the fact that he brought him a bottle of alcohol, tequila, I think it was.
Tequila, right. And remember when that happened, we were like, why are you doing this? Because he didn't know. Nobody knows, apparently. Yes. And I don't think we knew that he didn't know at that point.
Right. And Maggie wonders if he might have started drinking again.
Because she says, the day that he brought the tequila, that was the day he punched Walter.
Yes.
So he must have done that because he was drinking, which, I mean, was a factor.
I'm sure, but he's also a hothead.
Right.
So, and, Walter was pushing his buttons for sure that day and acting like a terrible human being. And then she notes some vitamins and makes a connection.
Yeah, she sees a flashback to the B1, vitamin B1 at the outpost. And she looks at the scans and she says, I think I know what's wrong with Sully. And they leave to go to the hospital.
And then, meanwhile, Frank is lighting a sweet stick, and actually, this is like kind of before that, but
it's all these scenes are kind of jumping, intersecting each other.
And he sets off a fire alarm.
Yeah, he intentionally lights it and holds it up to the smoke detector to set off the fire alarm. Turns the hospital into chaos. Right, the hospital's trying to evacuate because the fire alarm's going off, and Frank uses this moment to sneak Sully out of the hospital.
And I really like...
in a wheelchair.
I like these intercutting scenes and the music that played along with it. I really like the conclusion of this episode. And it's kind of cute, Frank jailbreaking Sully.
Yeah, but you know what? That seems like a really bad idea, Frank.
I'm sure it is. But
they're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, Frank is going to get in
Frank's
trouble.
Frank's going to get in trouble. Sully's going to get scolded by everyboody, including Maggie, of course.
Yes.
Because you can't just walk out of the hospital.
Well, I'm kind of curious if whatever Maggie has discovered might have caused some of Sully's behavior and maybe resulted in some of these actions that Maggie was scolding him for.
So, the vitamin B1.
Okay.
I tried looking this up.
Yep.
And I didn't write down the notes, and it's been a hot minute since I took these notes.
Yep.
And I planned on that we were going to be talking about it the day that I looked this up, and then...
life
happened, and
yes.
We've had a really rough time recording this podcast.
We did.
So I don't have it all as fresh in my head, and I should have written it down. But let me see if I can gather my thoughts about this. We know from Sydney that everybody here swears by taking these vitamin B1 to help with the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So that kind of indicates Sully was probably taking the vitamin B1, possibly taking a lot of it.
Okay.
So my thought at this scene was, is there some interaction between vitamin B1 and alcohol that's going to cause something funky to happen in his brain?
Okay.
And possibly be the cause of the stroke and all of this, right? And I didn't necessarily find that connection. But I did see some things that indicated a lack of vitamin B1 in alcoholics.
Okay.
Meaning you need more of it.
Okay.
There was some correlation between alcoholism and vitamin B1, and it could be very dangerous if you're, and I didn't write down what it was again, but the thing in vitamin B1, this is where we need our doctors to help us.
We have doctors?
We have a doctor listener, just not for this show.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thiamine, something.
Sounds close.
Something like that, whatever's in vitamin B1. Your body needs it, and it's something the alcoholics are lacking.
Okay.
Because the alcohol intervenes with the vitamins in your body, or whatever.
Gotcha.
So I think a more likely situation is that he isn't taking any of it and should be.
Gotcha.
Because he started drinking again, and maybe the alcohol coming into his system after not drinking for so many years, he's lacking this vitamin, and it caused something funky to go on. I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but whatever it is, it's something to do with the alcohol and the vitamins.
Okay.
Right? Mixing or not mixing, overdosing or underdosing.
Gotcha.
There's an imbalance happening with Sully, which led to some wonky stuff happening in his brain.
Okay.
Which is what's affecting his memory, because he needs to be balanced.
All right. Makes sense.
And I'm sure we'll get more technical answer when once she finally talks to the doctors and they don't say, screw you, he left, so we're not helping him.
Okay. So we have any other thoughts about this week's episode? Anything we didn't cover?
It sounds like Sydney's going to New York.
Yes.
And I don't think that's going to go well for her. And she's going to come back, hopefully, and live happily ever after with Rafe.
Yeah. There's no modeling in Nova Scotia that she could do?
I mean, apparently not. She wants to go to New York.
Well, one thing that she should not be is a bookkeeper, because I don't think she's very good at that.
She's not being very good at that, no. And that's the other thing is, we have what? We have a 7-day countdown. I guess that's where we're at with the campground, with Maggie's new job, and I guess that's where we're going to wrap up in this season, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to get their stuff together, these people, because they all need to just come live happily ever after.
Right,
They need to find some money to save the campground. They need to all take care of each other, and they need to all, run the diner and the search and rescue and the hospital, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's where the series concludes, but they can't all be happy, and because otherwise the series would just end and it'd be boring.
Sure, but it's like every single person is just lacking in what's going on in their lives right now. And every business is failing. And
well, I can certainly relate to that.
Every business is failing, and they need to fix things. And nobody's fixing anything right now. Hopefully they're about to fix Sully's medical stuff.
You know what? Cal is fixing
But there's
things.
a storm coming, big storm. So what's going to happen there?
It's going to break things.
Is anybody going to die?
I mean, somebody will probably die.
Any of our characters?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, last year we lost Roy. We already lost an old man this season, Duncan.
Yeah, Duncan, I hardly knew ya, and that's just an expression for you went too soon and all that. But in this case, I literally hardly knew Duncan.
Right. They introduced him just so that they could kill him.
Mm.
But yeah, what's going to happen with this storm? Like, it's going to be bad news.
Yes.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Maggie and Cal are going to end up helping Connie and Rafe save somebody. I feel like that's inevitable.
And then they're going to become the team, the search and rescue team.
Maybe.
And then it's going to be Sullivan's Crossing Rescue Unit or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Changing the title.
Sure.
All right. We have anything else to say?
I think that's it.
All right.
We'll just make sure we covered all of our new actors this episode. We did. This was our first appearance of Finn this season.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Zane Maloney reprising that role of Finn. And everyone else we've talked about before.
All right. Well, we had a rough time recording this one.
We did. It's coming out a little late. We apologize.
Yeah.
Which means we get a new episode very soon. Episode 3 we're going to be talking about sooner than later.
Yes.
And hopefully we're going to be back on schedule.
Right. All right. Stacie, we reached at?
I can reach on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. And, of course, you can do the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And, of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so you're notified when new content drops. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions signing off.